Hello, beautiful people. It's Robyn Thomas here with Resemble Me by Robyn. Welcome back to my channel. So on today, I'm going to be showing you all how I install these large Marley Twists. But I'm also going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be telling you all about my birthing experience. So I did have my baby, and I thought that maybe while I was showing you guys how I was installing my hair, I could talk a little bit about, or not a little bit, but tell y'all about how my birthing experience went. So first thing that you want to know is I did have my baby natural, which means a vaginal birth and no epidural. So I went through the whole process of childbirth, and this was very different from my other two births with my sons, which I'll explain later on when I get into detail. So if you are interested in seeing how I install my large Marley twist, and if you want to hear about my birthing experience, then definitely stay tuned. If for whatever reason you don't want to hear about a person going through labor, then just mute the video and watch. But if you are interested in that, then definitely continue to listen. So first, before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about this install. So this is actually my first time doing Marley twist on myself. I have done Singalese twist once before, but that was literally like right before I got married. So that was it's coming up on 9 years ago. And when I tell y'all, my body was aching so bad. It was my first time learning how to do twists, like starting from the root. And with Senegalese twists, it's you use expressions braiding hair, which you have to put a lot more attention into. Like, it just takes a lot more work than actually doing Marley twists. And so I vowed to never do Senegalese twists or any type of twist starting with twisting at the roots on my head again. But I went ahead and said, well, I'll just do some Marley twists. I needed something that was going to last me for just a little while, like a couple of weeks. So at this point, it's been about 3 weeks since I've had him in. I have an install, or I have an appointment coming up for my actual natural hair here pretty soon. So I just needed something to last me from now, or the moment of this video, until then, which is what I decided to do. It didn't take too long. It was a very easy install. The hardest part, or the longest part, is always parting. But y'all, look at what I'm doing right now. Like, I literally was like, I am about to try this method that I've seen people do many times. And no, the parts are not like super duper duper straight, but I don't really care, because again, I'm really just putting this in so that I can throw my hair into a bun. But I did say if I were to do it again, I would like do free parts, and then I would do medium. So I would have, I normally do small braids, but again, because I was only going to keep these in for a certain amount of time, I wasn't really worried too much about that. But I know for the future, if I do them again, I'm definitely going to keep them in longer. I really love this color, so I may do this color again, or I may use this color on another type of install that I decide to do. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go smaller. I'm definitely going to do like free part or like moon parts. I'm not the biggest fan of the square parts when it comes to Marley Twist, especially not big ones. So maybe smaller ones is fine, because they look more like you're doing like mini twists with your hair. But the big ones, not so much. But anyway, so I'm using my phone to record this, right? Or to see this. So if you have a smart TV and you have Wi-Fi, then you should be able to link this to your TV. Now, how was it linked before now? I don't know. I don't know if it's because it just like could feel that I was in this certain room, like with my smartphone or something. I don't know. But all I know is I scrolled down where you have like the little, you can go quickly to the functions, like where you have the screen recorder, the volume, airplane mode, and all that stuff. And then I just tapped the like TV lookalike thing, and it asked me if I wanted to link to my TV, and I did, and I pressed my record, and I put my ring light up. As you can see, the ring light through there, and I just, or look at my son. That's my eldest. And I just started recording. And when I say this was an absolute game changer, I truly mean this was an absolute game changer. Like, so much easier than having a mirror and being in a mirror and trying to look. And it's better for you all to see what I'm doing behind. So I really like this, and more than likely I'm going to continue to use this method moving forward, especially like when I'm doing my braids, or probably any style, but especially braids and parting, because when I tell y'all this was a game changer, oh my gosh, it was a game changer. So yeah, that's really all about the Marley Twist that I want to talk about. And then so I'm going to tell you the type of hair that I use, and then we'll get into my birthing experience. I'm using the tried and true Cuban twist double strand style. I like to just call it Marley hair, but I really love this. And I'm using it in colors ginger and 350. So the ginger is a lighter color, which is this one, which is so pretty. I couldn't choose which one I wanted, so I was like, I'm just gonna do both. But man, these colors are beautiful, and this is the 350. So I just like would do one color, another twist another color. I would mix them. I would do some like three-fourths one color and one-fourth the other color, and then vice versa, just so I can have like a nice mix all throughout. And so I ended up using 4 packs total. I had like a little bit left of the fourth pack, but I used 4 packs total. Okay, so let's get into labor and delivery. So if you are a client of mine or have been a client of mine and you are listening to this, you already know how my other two experiences went with my boys. So I had very fast births with both of them. They were different, I will say, but I did have very fast births. My first son was 3 hours and 40 minutes. My second son was 3 hours and 20 minutes. Total labor time from like their first contraction of like the, oh shit, I'm finna have this baby, to the baby laying on my chest. Okay, so those are very, very fast. This one right here, okay, was not nowhere near as fast as this. And actually, my due date was on April the 10th, but I ended up having my baby almost a month early. So I had my baby March the 17th. So I have a St. Patty's Day baby. I have a baby that was born on St. Patrick's. So my little lucky charm decided that she did not want to wait. Yes, I said she. I had my first girl that she did not want to wait and was like, let's get on out of here. So let me tell y'all what happened. So on Friday, March 15th, I was actually, so that whole week, I had started taking down my microbox braids. I did not record any of it because I planned on recording the ending of me taking it out. And I didn't get a chance to because of this. So I was on that Friday, I was literally on the front of my hair. I probably had like 40 more braids to take out. And I had set up my what is it called? My ring light and everything. Like my boys were down to their nap, so I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll just go ahead and take the remainder of these braids out and then show how much new growth I've had. You know, I have my braids in. And then how I easily take my micro box braids out, especially because my hair was short and all that good stuff. If you want details on that, then you can go and look at my recent video with my takedown and then my twist out. I'll be sure to link it below to give you easy access. So I set it up. I had the camera going and I was standing up while I was doing it. And so I was taking, now, mind you, I had been moving around kind of like around the house all day, just kind of cleaning and stuff and getting stuff together so that I could just like chill for the weekend, so I could just kick my feet up and all that. So yeah, so I'm taking my braids out and I've already been getting Braxton Hicks contractions. And honestly, my Braxton Hicks contractions has started like months ago. But the more you have babies, the more your body is accustomed to it. So the quicker things will react and what I learned with this one is the stronger it'll be. It's almost like I would think that your body would be like, would take it easier, but because your body already knows what to do, it actually likes is more intense and stuff like that. So anyways, I started to, my Bryson his contractions were starting to hurt. So normally Braxton Hicks is just a lot of pressure. And real contractions, it's like some pain with it. And so I started to experience some pain, and I would say, okay, well, let me sit down and drink some water. I've been moving around a lot. I just need to sit down and rest for a little second. But as I was sitting down, of course, I was taking my braids out, which I'm very happy I continue to do. So I sat down and I was taking the braids out, and I'm like, okay, it's calmed down. Let me get back up so that I can record this and I can at least show them like the ending of me taking my braids down. And so every time I would get up, I would basically start to feel contractions. And so I text my husband. I was like, hey, so these contractions are starting to hurt a little bit. I know we're like a month like before I'm supposed to give birth, but I'm telling you so I can keep you updated. He was at work at this time. I was like, but I'm telling you so I can keep you updated just in case. Like, you know, our babies like to come early. My first son came 3 weeks early. My second son came 2 weeks early. So it's just always better to be safe than sorry, right? And so, yeah, so then I just said, well, I can't stand up and record it. I didn't have like my chair up here. At that point, I was like over the pregnancy. I was not trying to go up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs, and none of that, right? So anyways, I was like, well, I'm just going to sit down and continue to take these braids out. I basically was like, okay, I'm not doing this video because apparently my body doesn't feel like it, right? So I sat down and I continued to take the braids out, but the contractions weren't going anywhere. So I'm like, okay, I know this child is not about to come a month early. Like, there is absolutely no way. I literally went to my doctor's office the Wednesday prior to. So the Wednesday before I went to the doctor's office, and we were laughing and joking about how the babies come early, and she was telling me her schedule. She was like, oh, well, if she decides to come, I'll be there this day, this day, this day. And I'm thinking like, okay, like that never happens like that. But so yeah, so I'm sitting down, I'm steady having these contractions, and I'm like, okay, this is just not this or whatever. So I finished taking the braids down, and I braid that little section just into a cornrow, and I go upstairs to lay down. So I fix me a big jug of water. So I'm like, okay, jug of water, I fix me some fruit. I'm like, I just need to rest. I need to hydrate myself. I need to lift my feet up. Like, I am doing a lot. At this point, I'm 163 pounds. Y'all, I have never been that big in my life. Okay? I started off at 127, and I ended up being 163 pounds. With both of my sons, I ended at like 149, 148. So that's a lot. That was a lot with them, and it definitely was a lot with her. So so yeah, so I come upstairs, I lay down, and then at this point now my boys have waken up, and I'm like, dang, you know, I thought it was gonna give me a little time to take these braids out, a little time to rest, but because I kept starting and stopping, that just wasn't happening. So I laid down, they came in my room, and I put on a movie for them because I'm like, I really just need to sit down. I cannot get up and move. I put a movie on. I put a pillow over my belly because my boys are so active and they just love moving around all the time. So I put a pillow over my belly. I laid back. I was drinking my water, eating my fruit, but nothing was relieving me. Like, I would turn to the left, nothing was relieving me. I would turn to the right, nothing was relieving me. I would sit my bed up a little bit. I would lay it down just a little bit, but literally nothing was curing the contractions. So because I started drinking so much water, because I kept trying to say, okay, hydrate yourself, trying to stop these contractions, right? I kept having to use the bathroom, and every time I had to use the bathroom, it hurt. I'm like, okay, I don't know what is going on. So at this point, like, I think my husband had texted me, was like, hey, how you feeling? What's the update? And I'm like, honestly, these contractions hurt and they're not stopping, you know. And so he ends up calling me, and when he calls me, I'm having a contraction, but I'm also sitting on the toilet using it. Oh, I probably should have gave this disclaimer, but I tell my stories like full out, real deal. So if you get grossed out by stuff, then You don't need to be listening to this. If you feel like, why she talking about this? She's supposed to be a lady. Girl, I'm talking about my birthing experience. And it happens, okay? Some stuff is going to happen in here where you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. Well, believe it, because if you plan on having a kid, especially if you plan on having one, naturally, you might want to listen to what could possibly happen. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so I'm sitting on toilet and I'm peeing and it's hurting. So when he called me, he asked me, okay, what's going on? And I'm like, okay, so something about me, I must say real quick. I don't be knowing, like, my pain tolerance is high. I would like to believe, at least when it comes to childbirth. Can I pop a pimple? No. Can I give birth to children unmedicated? Yes. So when I have these contractions, when it hurts a little, to other people it hurts a lot, and to doctors they say like you could have come in sooner, okay, if you catch my drift. So I'm telling him like, yeah, it hurts. So I'm like kind of like moaning a little bit like and so he's like, okay, these are sounding, you're actually, your body is making complaints about them basically. And so he was like, okay, well, let me know what you want me to do. Like, do you think that I need to come? Or do you think that I, should stay at work? I should wait it out? Or like, what do you think? And so I'm like, okay. And so his job is about 30 minutes away. So I'm like, okay, thinking, right? But as I'm thinking, I'm steady having to pee. Like literally, I'm not even drinking any more water. I'm just steady having to use the bathroom. And so what clicked in my mind was my first time I went into labor with my eldest, I had to get up in the middle of the night and use the bathroom, and I kept having to pee and I was not being relieved. Like, so they'll tell you like later on in your pregnancy to make sure that your bladder is empty so that it's not bothering you. Once you feel like you're done peeing, you want to lean forward so that you can get some more out. You want to lean back. You just kind of want to like move around almost like front, back, side to side, just to make sure that your bladder is being relieved everywhere. And I kid y'all not, moms, come on now, help me out in the comments. It's like that, ain't it? Because you'll think you're done, then you'll lean forward, and I kid you not, be peeing for a whole nother 15 seconds. Like, wow, I can't believe that. So anyways, he steady hearing me. And like I said, again, every time I had to pee, it was hurting. And then I was having contractions at the same time. So I was like, okay, this kind of hurts, a little bit. Like, it hurts enough for me to acknowledge that this is actually hurting. And I know that these are not Braxton Hicks contractions anymore. Because it wasn't just like the pressure in my stomach. It was also like my vagina was hurting and my stomach was actually hurting and my lower back would kind of hurt a little bit, right? And so he was like, well, I'm just going to come now. So he comes to the house, and y'all, I am never prepared to have a child. Like, I'm already like a procrastinator. But I mean, who thinks their child is going to come a month before, especially if you're having a normal pregnancy, right? So no preeclampsia. I wasn't put on bed rest. I went on maternity leave on my own terms because I wanted to go much sooner than I normally did. But who expects to have their kid a month early? So I planned, basically, because I had my eldest son 3 weeks early, I had planned on being ready the next week. And also, my mother was coming to town on that Monday. So basically, once she got here, I was going to get ready for baby girl to make it. So we were going to put up the bassinet. We were going to like put the car seat in the car, like do everything that we needed to do. Thank God we made sure that we had all of the essentials that week. Matter of fact, I think it was like a couple of days before. It's almost like, even if you don't know, your body, everything else knows, like, no, this baby is coming. Like, we had so many different things where we was like, okay, let's stop this, let's start there, let's do this, let's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, this baby could be, oh, bump that. Hold on. So look, speaking of, how about, so that was Friday. How about that Wednesday prior? Okay, I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, oh, baby girl, please just wait until my mama get here. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I said, give me 5 days. 5, maybe 6. Like, let my mama make it to town, make it to the house, and then you can do whatever you want to do. Like that's what I was saying. Like you can do whatever you want to do. And also at that time I would have been 37 weeks, which would have meant I would have been full term. But I was on the couch and I was like, oh, please wait. And I looked at my husband, he was like, she ain't gonna come, she'll be fine. We, went on 3 week or whatever. And I'm like, baby, I wanted to cry getting out of the bed yesterday. Like my body is giving her the eviction notice. Like it is written up. It has been signed, sealed. I just have not yet delivered it. Okay. But trust me when I tell you, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, even until my mama come, like I was just feeling it. Oh my gosh, I was feeling it so much. Yeah, so 2 days later, she decided to say, okay. But anyways, so yeah, where was I at with this story? Oh, so he comes home and he just starts. I mean, he moving so fast, getting everything together. He getting the boys together. On Fridays, the boys don't go to school, so we just like lounge around in our night clothes or whatever. I just do a lot of stuff around the house. If I don't take them out, close to the end of my pregnancy, I wasn't taking them like anywhere outside the house on Fridays. I just been like using a day for us to relax. And so he's like moving around, getting a bag together. He just put the car seat in his truck. He didn't put it together, but he put it in his truck. He got them some clothes. He got them some bag or got their bags together, bags of snacks, bags of activities and things to do, iPad, just things to kind of keep them occupied. So speaking of, children cannot be in labor and delivery. So that's another thing that we were like, okay, what are we going to do? Which is why we were waiting until, or, my mom was going to come 3 weeks earlier so that we could have somebody here for the boys, right? So I'm like, okay, we're just going to have to figure that out when we get there. So there was not too much worrying about that. When I tell y'all, put it in God's hands, put it in God's hands, because it wasn't nothing we was going to be able to do. So anyways, he's getting them together, getting them stuff to keep them occupied. And we hop in the truck and we are on our way to the hospital. So on our way to the hospital, the contractions are actually not as intense and they are slowing down. So when I was on the toilet, they would come about, at that point they were coming like every minute, if I'm like being honest. Now, even though they were coming every minute, they weren't like, I'm about to have this baby right now. Like I know what it feels like. Well, I'm about to have this baby right now. And it wasn't that. It was just that the contractions were intense and they were close, which is cause enough to go to the hospital at least to see, okay, what is going on. So as we were in the truck, I was, like I said, the contractions were getting less intense and they were slowing down. So probably about every 5 minutes apart now. There's still enough for me to kind of have a little grimace or whatever and kind of like want to breathe through them. But I was able to, they were slowing down. So anyways, we're already there. My babies come early, so let's just go ahead and get in this hospital and see, what's going on. So we go into the hospital, and I check in the triage and all this stuff. They take me back to a room first. They get me all checked in. And I really love, I gave birth at Kaiser. I've given birth at Kaiser for all three of my children. And when I say I love them, I absolutely love them. Like, I'll tell y'all about how much I love them a little bit later. So yeah, so they take me to the back, they hook me up to the monitor, they get all of my information, and basically they said, well, we're just going to watch you for about an hour to see what your contractions do. So all the information they were getting was what I've been going through, blah blah, what brought me here and all of that. And they said, well, we're just going to wait until we see get a read on what's going on. Okay, so they hooked me up. Of course, they explained to me like, okay, this would be an early term labor. We don't really know what's going on right now or why, but you tend to have your children early, so it's not that shocking to us if you are going into labor, and we wouldn't stop you if you were going into labor because you are very close to being full term. I think I had like 3 or so days until I was full term. So, on the machine, I basically was having contractions, but at this point, they stopped hurting me. So although I can feel, they just feel like Bryson Hicks contractions, but they are still about every 2 to 3 minutes apart. So they pick back up from being like every 5 minutes to being like every 2 to 3 minutes apart when I made it to the hospital. I personally think that it's because of the position that they have you in. Like, to set the two monitors on the stomach, like you have to like be set up a certain way so that it doesn't move, so that it gets the heart rate and then the contraction rate like perfectly. And so that's always kind of uncomfortable to my body, I feel like. But anyways, I was having contractions, and then they were like, I would just like be talking. So at that time, they let Quincy's my husband, let my husband and my boys come back with us. And they just kind of, we just kind of sit there for a while, and they were like, do you feel that? And I'm like, I mean, I feel the pressure. Now it just kind of feels like Braxton Hicks. I'm not really hurting. And they were like, oh, well, these are kind of close. And I'm like, I know, but I think my pain tolerance is pretty high. So most of the times I don't feel too much of, the contractions like at the beginning of actual labor. I'll say that. I feel like I don't start feeling the contractions don't become like unbearable for me until about 8 centimeters is when I'm like, what the hell? I want to say the other word, but I'm saying, what the hell? And so yeah, so once she realized, so she said, okay, we want to watch you for about an hour. And so my husband went to go get the boys something to eat, went to go get me something to eat. And so by the time he made it back there, made it back with the food, we started eating, and then they came in. And when I tell y'all, when they say I'm gonna come back in 5 minutes, it's like they knock on the door at 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Like, they were not playing no games. Okay. So anyways, so they came back after the hour, and they were like, okay, yeah, you're still having contractions at about 2 to 3 minutes. We want to keep you here because you could possibly go into labor. Like, these contractions are happening. But at that time, I think I was only like 2 centimeters dilated. So when they checked me, I was only like 2 centimeters dilated, which was nothing. I feel like they would, if I were anybody else, if it was my first pregnancy, they would have probably sent me home just off of the centimeters of how many centimeters I was dilated. But anyway, so they said, we're going to go ahead and check you in, into labor and delivery. We're going to move you to a labor and delivery room, which, by the way, is a resort. I just want to tell y'all, it is huge as hell. But anyways, so they said, we're going to move you there. So they move us all there. And so this is still Friday. And so because now they've checked me in into labor and delivery, technically we're like kickstarting or whatever. And so I told them that I want to have my baby naturally. They always ask, like, how do you have a birth plan or whatever? And I was like, no, I don't have anything written down. The only thing I will say is I want to have my child naturally. I don't want any epidurals. Of course, I want to go vaginal. I know that it hurts. I've done this twice before, and there's going to come a time where I look at you as if I'm telling you with my eyes, save me. But I don't want to be saved. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Okay. But there will come a time where you're going to look at me like a pitiful puppy dog that's been out on the street in the rain, in the cold, and doesn't have an owner. Do not ask me if I want an epidural. Do not ask me if I want an epidural. Okay. Don't say epidural while you're here, because it hurts so bad that you start to think about it, So I just told her I want to go natural. Just don't mention it. Yes, it's going to hurt like shit. Yes, you're going to see it on my face. Yes, at around 8 centimeters or so, you're going to start hearing me maybe complain a little bit, or you're going to hear some things and you're going to be like, you sure? And yes, I'm absolutely positive I do not want an epidural. Okay. So yeah, so we got set up, and before we went back to labor delivery, we were like, well, what do we do with our boys? Because children can't come. And they were just like, with our circumstance, we're the only family that are here in San Diego. They were just like, I mean, we just kind of have no choice but to bring him back. Like, well, we ain't gonna send your husband home, And so I was really grateful for that. Like I said, I wasn't like, it was in the back of my mind. I wasn't like worried, like biting my nails, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But it was always in the back of my mind, like, what are we going to do if we go into labor before my mom can make it to town? It was always there. Okay. So yeah, so we get to the back and they basically say, at this time it's like late at night, because I think by the time we made it to the hospital it was like 6:15, 6:30. We stayed there for an hour, so 7:30, 8ish, and then we got moved, so it's like late at night. And they still have the monitors on me checking with my contractions and things like that. I'm still contracting. And then what happened? Oh yeah, I'm still contracting. And then we get the boys set up again, like I said, get them set up. Which the only thing I will say about hospitals, y'all have got to do better for these fathers. Like, what the hell makes you think a couch is enough? Most of the times the men are super big. They're bigger than the couches themselves. I know it's super uncomfortable. My husband has back problems. Like, that's the only thing I can say that I absolutely hate about hospital facilities is, what makes you think that the father or the support system, let me say that, doesn't need to be comfortable when they're there? I understand it's all about the baby, you having a child and all of that, but goodness gracious, we got people staying overnight with us. You don't want them grumpy too. So anyways, while we were there, so we stayed overnight. I slept overnight. I was still having the contractions, but now they're at the point where they're like 15 minutes apart, right? So they're like really slowing down. Again, they do not hurt. They now feel like Braxton Hicks contractions. The only thing is they were consistent, right? So at 15 minutes, if you have four contractions in an hour, they want you to call the hospital or go to the hospital, because that could mean that you are in early labor. So they kept me overnight, and then when I woke up the next morning, they basically informed me that throughout the night, or like within the first hour, so like from 6 to 7, my baby's heart rate had dropped twice. Okay, now that starts to cause for concern. Because, okay, so you're having these mild contractions, but your heart rate is or the baby's heart rate is dropping, which could mean that the fetus is in distress. The distress can be from, of course, the labor, or it could be that the placenta has stopped working. That is something that I actually went through with my son. I went to the hospital, my second son. I went to the hospital a week before I actually gave birth, because they wanted to check on him, basically make sure the placenta was still working and doing its job. So after a while, they did end up telling me, okay, we're gonna just wait it out and see, what happens. And so after a little while, they left me there. They said, so we're gonna basically keep you on the machines, and we're gonna watch you for an hour. All the machines are out there. We're not gonna come in here and disturb you, but we can see everything that's going on outside. And if the baby heart rate drops again within the hour, then we're gonna keep you for a test, because they were saying that it could be how I was sleeping. It could be, how the monitors were catching it and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. So we waited for another hour. They looked again and the baby heart rate dropped twice. It wasn't consistent and it wasn't big dips, but it was enough for them to be like, okay. And when I say consistent, I mean like it's not dropping every time I have a contraction. Okay, so basically they said that if the baby heart rates drop when you have the contraction, that's fine, because your stomach is like putting the pressure on the baby and stuff like that. But if it drops afterwards, then that's a problem. So like I said, it was consistent enough to keep an eye out, but it wasn't consistent to where every time I had a contraction, the heart rate was dropping. But it was consistent that whenever it did drop, it dropped after the contraction and not during the contraction. So that's always cause for concern. Okay, so after that, they were like, well, we're going to, it wasn't necessarily, it was always something to look at and to, keep track of, but it wasn't like, okay, this is like a dire situation. We need to go ahead and get this baby out right now. So they did a test like within 10 minutes. And so what they did was, they gave me something, and I can't remember what it is, but they gave me something that was going to make me, they needed to kick in. And basically once I contracted, so they gave me like fake Pitocin. That's what I'm gonna say. Fake, like some sort of fake Pitocin. And so they said, well, when you have contractions, once you have three contractions in the time span of 10 minutes, we're going to see how those how your body reacts to that. If your baby heart rate drops in those 10 minutes, so I had to, it couldn't be like, oh, I had two contractions within 10 minutes and then another one at the 11. It had to be within the 10 minutes. So if your baby heart rate drops within those 10 minutes, then we are going to go ahead and start your labor for you. Because at that time, like I said, I'm still having those contractions. They're extremely mild, they're extremely far apart, but I was still having these things that were going on. So sure enough, it took a while for that to kick in. I started to have contractions after like a couple of hours, if I'm being honest, like maybe 2 hours. And two of the three times my baby's heart rate dropped. So they said, okay, well, we're still going to keep you, we're going to keep you. And then we're going to go ahead and kick off this labor because we don't want anything to be going on with your baby. We don't want to leave your baby in there for too long. We want to make sure that she comes out nice and healthy. And that we don't have to like do like any extreme measures basically. So I'm like, okay, cool. Mind you, this story is being told a month after the fact. So it wasn't cool then. It was cool enough because, what am I going to do? I agree with the doctors. I want to make sure that my baby is okay, make sure that she comes out healthy, and that I'm healthy throughout the process. So I'm saying, okay, cool. But at the time I was like, okay, that's what's up. And my husband actually wasn't there. He had taken the boys out so they can like run around, let some energy out and stuff like that. Oh, and then so look, so I had called my mama and she was gonna go ahead and come into town. This is spring break month, right? So in March they gonna hike the prices up as much as they can. And they weren't playing no games. When I tell y'all the lowest ticket she could find to try to come, like at this point it's the next day, right? So to come on that Saturday, the lowest price, okay, was $2,000 one way. Y'all got to be out y'all damn minds. Now, I'm sure people was paying it, and it was only actually absolutely one ticket left. And I was like, no, you are not. Well, I didn't even have to say it. She called me and was like, yeah, I'm not paying it. I was like, look, no, trust me, I know I would never pay that much. And I would never tell anybody else to pay that much to come. Like, they not tripping with the boys being here. We just gonna, make it work, do what we got to do. And so, yeah, so Quincy had left and basically helping them run off some energy, took them home so that they can play and be in their own atmosphere, feed them and all that good stuff, take them a bath, so that he could come back up later on that night. So I called him and updated him with everything that was going on. And so we just came up with a game plan whenever the contractions started kicking in or whenever, oh, no, actually, no. So the game plan was I asked them like, how fast do we need to move? So at this point, it's like afternoon or it's like 2, 3-ish maybe. And I'm asking them how fast, do we need to move? And again, they were like, look, it's not anything that's consistent. Us keeping you here and us monitoring her is helping, but we are going to start with your stuff. Get yourself something to eat. You know what I'm saying? Get something to eat. Take a shower because I hadn't showered. Take a shower. And then just get ready so that we can start the process of starting your labor. So at this point, Quincy had gone and come back twice. So he left and went to go get me breakfast and then came back. They hung out. Then he left to go get me lunch. We ate and then he took the boys home. And so then it was his time to come back. So it's like I said, I think like 5 o'clock or so at this point. So he came back to bring me some basically dinner and then to bring me my body wash and stuff from the house because I like my specific wash. So he came back to bring me some food because I refuse to eat hospital food when somebody can go and get some for me. I need flavor. Everything in the hospital is extremely healthy. Like, I totally get it, but God, dog, it could at least have some flavor to it. So as you know, from me mentioning earlier, I really want to have my baby naturally and without any medicines involved, right? So basically what they did was they told me the different things that could occur from everything that's happening. So they basically was like, okay, we're going to give you some real Pitocin, and forgive me if I get these names wrong. It's been a month. But we're going to give you some real Pitocin. And we're going to try our best to, oh, no, 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 no. Rewind. So they were checking my cervix to see how soft it was. And I think at that point, I was like, uh, okay, let me bag it up a little bit more. So that was probably around like lunchtime ish or so. I don't know. I can't really remember at this point, but it was early on. It was like midday, close to in between afternoon and evening. Okay, and so then they were like, okay, we're gonna give you, because now we're going into labor. My cervix needed to be soft, right? Need to be as soft as possible. So they go off a percentage scale, and I think at that time I was only like 40% soft. My cervix was 40% soft. So they needed to put something inside of me, inside of my vagina. Or they had different options they could do. And the one that they chose was some sort of like strip. That way, if the baby wasn't responding to basically the medicine they was putting inside of me, if she wasn't responding to it well, they can go ahead and take it out, and it would cease, it would start ceasing immediately, right? If they did it through my veins, with the liquid form, it would have taken a little longer for it to wear off, and they didn't want that. Okay, so they put that in, just so they can soften my cervix. And like I said, I was at 40%, I believe. I think I was at 40% softened, and so I got up to, basically the whole thing is we don't want the baby's heart rate to keep dropping, right? And so I got up to about, I think, 80% soft. My cervix was 80% soft by the time they decided to take it out, because our heart rate did start to drop again. But before I go to that part, they basically was like, okay, so we're going to give you this to soften your cervix. We're going to do it in the strip form, just in case we have to take it out if baby girl is not reacting to it in a nice way. And then we're going to break your water. And then that's going to like push start the labor. If during your contractions your baby heart rate starts to drop like it was, then we're going to have to go in for a C-section. And I have not had a C-section. I hear horrible horrible things about C-sections, whether it comes to the actual process of, or excuse me, like epidurals, going in the back to numb them, and the C-sections and the aftermath or whatever. And I just didn't want that. Like, also, call me vain or whatever, but I look good. Like, my stomach be flat. Like, I be looking good. I'm able to like bounce back after my babies, with a little workout here, drinking my water, eating as good as possible. And I really just didn't want to have to go to go through that. And I know y'all probably like, girl, what you were worried about that for? Of course I wasn't worried about it, but those are the things that I was thinking about. Like, I really don't want to have to go through that physical part of labor if I can avoid it, right? So, of course, anything I need to do to make sure my baby girl made it out perfectly fine and that I'll be okay will be fine. So the only thing with that is, because I was choosing to go naturally and I was not getting the epidural, if it came to the point of them having to do a C-section, they would have to put me under, sedate me and put me under, because I wouldn't already have pain medicine. And that's, of course, if it had to be an emergency C-section, which in the case of how this was going, it probably would have ended up being that, right? So they would have to put me under, and then basically they explained to me the medicine do to put you under. All we have to do is give you some medicine and wake you right back up. So you would be able to wake up and still get that skin to skin time, and all of this stuff. So I was like, okay, so I am, of course, I'm nervous and I'm sad because I'm like, man, she's coming kind of early. I don't know how much she weighs, although I'm big as hell and I feel big as shit. Like I feel huge, right? But I don't really know how much she weighs. She's a month early, as they say. Personally, I always felt like I was pregnant before I was pregnant, but they always go off of your last period. But hey, I don't know. They've been doing this science thing for a while. It's worked for most of the time, but personally, I think I believe that your body, if you're not having complications or anything, your body lets you know when your baby is ready to come. And your body is not going to get too much bigger than it can handle. I've actually read that multiple times before I had my first son. It's not going to get too big to where your body can't handle the baby coming out. Now that's in most cases. There are always instances where it may not end up being like that because of different circumstances. But anyways, so they gave me all the information. I called my husband. I let out a few tears because I'm not in control and of the situation. And when I say just a few, the few tears were just like, oh, this is not going as we plan. I just hope she's okay. And my husband just encouraged me real quick, like, look, baby, she ready. She's fine. They're not putting a rush on things, which means that she's fine. You're fine. You're going to still be able to walk around and have this baby naturally. I believe it, and I believed it as well. So, like I said, I went through my emotions. I'm really good at that. I go through my emotions so I can, get through them and get over them, and then I'm like, okay, it's game time. Let's go. So, yeah. So then I told him that, and so he was so I just really told him, like, stay at home with the boys until like the labor actually starts kicking in, right? So he was either gonna come at like 9:30, 10, or when I started having the contractions where it feels like, okay, it's getting close to time, whichever one came first. So yeah, so they gave me the strip to soften up my cervix. And it took some hours to soften up. Her heart rate dropped a couple of times close to the end, but by the time they put it out, I was about 80% softened. And then we waited a little while, I want to say, just to, I don't really know. I can't really remember at this point, but I do remember us waiting. Oh, matter of fact, so once they did that, Quincy came with the food so this is the last time I got food from him. So he came with the food, and so now this is around like 5:30 ish. I'm assuming, right? 5:36 maybe. I don't know. So he came with the food. I ate my food, and then I took my shower. He brought me all my stuff. I took my shower, and I took my time. So I ate my food, took my shower, and then when I got out, by the time I made it out, he was like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and leave, and then let me know when the contractions and stuff start like kicking in. So I'm gonna either be back at 9:30 or when you feel like you finna have the baby, so that whichever one comes first. So he ends up leaving, and I'm now back on the monitors. They put you right back on the monitors because they were checking our heart rate. And they also told me that they were going to put a wireless monitor on me so that I could like move around and have my labor, because that's something that I feel has worked. Like the gravity helps you work with that, right? So a little bit before then, my nurse changed, and the doctor changed. So both of them changed. So they do like 12-hour shifts. So they came in to introduce themselves to me. The lady like turned over to I then I had a male doctor, and then I had a male nurse, and then it changed to a woman nurse. So they came and they introduced themselves or whatever, and then we were just kind of like about to go through this process together. But before she left, she was the one who actually broke my water. So she stayed a little bit longer, actually. So they also felt like this was going to go pretty fast because I had my other boys so fast. So yeah, like normally when Yes, like I said, 3 hours, 40 minutes, and 3 hours and 20 minutes. So they were expecting, like, when I broke my water for it to just like fly by. But because it was happening unnaturally, then it took some time for for the baby to come out, or even for my actual like labor contractions to like really kick in. And then another thing, whenever I had my boys, my water didn't break for both of them until it was time for me to push. I was already like 10 centimeters, and it was like time for me to go ahead and push. So, um, so they introduced themselves and all that, and so she broke my water at 7:30. So 7:30 is like the start time of my actual labor. She broke my water, and at this time, my cervix is 90% softened. So at the time it took for me to like eat and take a bath, those couple of hours, it gave my cervix more time to soften up. So I was at about 90%. So they broke my water. They put me on the monitors to the wireless monitors. And for me, I was like, let's go ahead and get started. So of course I'm steady updating my husband while he's at home with the boys, just kind of like letting them run out as much energy as they can. And I just started walking around, having the wireless monitor on me, walking around. And the scans were actually reading that the contractions were stronger than they were, but they weren't. So they had to like do some adjusting or whatever. And so I walked around for about 2 hours, and I wasn't really, it was close to the 9:30 mark where I started to feel tired. I was like, wow, what a time. Like, I'm exhausted. And then at that time, my husband had come in with the boys. So our plan was to keep the boys up as long as possible so that they could sleep through the actual birth, because they were going to be in the room. And of course, Quincy wanted to be totally focused on me. And of course, we didn't want them in the ways of the doctors, because they were already doing us a huge, huge, huge favor by allowing them to even be in there. Of course, again, it was circumstances, but they did not have to do that. Like, as a person who follows their own rules, I normally don't break rules. So I was like, this is probably going to bite me in the ass. But fortunately, God is graceful, and he put it on their hearts to say, listen, what else are y'all going to do? We're not going to make you go through this, by yourself without your husband, because y'all don't have childcare. And fortunately, too, my boys were just really good anytime they were there. Of course, they were being kids, but we always find ways to keep them like occupied, and keep them engaged into something or whatever. And Quincy does a really good job. When he sees them getting antsy, he's like, okay, let's go. So that they don't become like, I don't know, we don't want these kids up in here. So again, I really, really appreciate that. So yeah, so what, 9:30 they get there, and I'm like tired, so I'm like yawning. I'm like, ooh, like it's past my bedtime. Like, I put the boys in bed at 8:30, baby. I'm in bed by 8:45. Okay, so I'm walking around, and the contractions are starting to get a little stronger. I can say that now I can feel them in my back as opposed to just like in my stomach, so which is a good thing. And I'm just walking, and I got my music playing, and I'm, vibing out or whatever. Just kind of get into the mood of about to get ready to have this baby, mentally preparing for this pain that I'm about to feel because it's here. It is absolutely here. So yeah, so about 11:30, so when you have those monitors on, it's almost like, well, at least for me, I started to get hot. This whole pregnancy, I've been like hot as hell. I'm talking about like sweating. Like, I ask my clients like, y'all hot? They be like, no, I feel great. I'm like, shit, I'm hot as hell. But anyways, so I'm like with the ointment or the whatever the fluid, the liquid is that they put on there, the gel, like to do the ultrasound or whatever gel that is, they have to put on you with that. And then my body heat, it started to like slip off. So they weren't able to read the contractions. Like this, you can see the screen inside of the room too. So I could see when I was having contractions, and then on the screen you could see where it wasn't picking anything up because of where it had moved. So basically it was slipping, right? And they also didn't want to like tie it too tight because they didn't want to press way too tight. They already have to like put enough pressure on it, but they didn't want to go like too hard. So they was like, okay, well, we're just going to the machine is not reading the whole time, so we're gonna go ahead and put you down or lay you back down. And I was really like, thank God. Like, I want to help progress this labor, but I am so sleepy. So it's about 11:30 and I lay down and I like immediately go to sleep. My kids went to sleep at around 11. So we let them just kind of like get extremely tired to where they were like trying their hardest to keep their eyes open. At about 11 o'clock, my husband was like, all right, fix them up on the couch that they had, gave them some pillows, and then he like built this little thing in front of them because my youngest son sleeps so well. He actually fell off the bed. Fortunately, Quincy was like right there. He was right there, and he actually slept on the floor. So they gave him like a whole bunch of pillows. He slept. He put it up on the floor and then laid out on the floor. And when my son fell, my husband's stomach was basically right there to catch it. I'm laughing, but it's for real. Like when we like look at the camera, like when they sleep or whatever, my son would be like laying sideways. He'll be on the other side of the bed, like he sleeps all over the place. So, anyways, so that's I lay down about 11:30, and it was twice when I was asleep that I felt the contractions. And the second time I felt it, I woke up like, oh my God, this hurts. So I woke up at about 12:30, like, okay, this is the pain I'm used to like really feeling. This is how I know this baby is about to be on its way. So when I woke up and I was like, I'm having really like the contractions are actually like hurting me now. And so she checked my cervix and I was only 6 centimeters dilated, and I could believe that because the contractions weren't so painful to where I was like, I can't do this no more. Of course, they're always, even though I know I'm the method that I'm choosing, I'm always like, I can't do this. I get to that point because it hurts so bad. So yeah, I was only 6 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, okay, let's get this show on the roll. Like, I'm trying to make this quick and easy. I would rather go through like intense pain for a short period of time than pain like over a long period of time that just seemed like it's never going anywhere. So I get up and I started to walk around. I just told my husband, he's kind of in and out of his sleep at this point, but I just told him like, hey, it's getting real. So he like, okay. So I'm walking around or whatever, and I'm having these contractions, and I'm steady having to pee. So I'm steady having to use the bathroom, and it's super uncomfortable. That's got to be the most uncomfortable thing, and partially it's on me. Well, wholly on me because I was constantly like eating ice. I've been eating ice all day and drinking water. Like I wasn't drinking anything else. I was constantly drinking water and eating ice. So my bladder was like, empty me, empty me, empty me, empty me, empty me. So also at that time, I kept feeling like I had to do number two. I was like, okay, like it's crazy because it's like my stomach hurts, but my intestines were also hurting. Like I could feel like, nah, I just had a firehouse sub and I had all of the different types of peppers on there. So much that the guy when I was ordering, he was like, you can eat that spicy like at this end of the pregnancy. I was like, baby, throughout my whole pregnancy, I do this. I've been eating spicy like this since I was little. Okay, when they introduced me to hot sauce, it was over with. But anyways, so I'm like, okay, these contractions are really starting to hurt. I come out the bathroom and I'm walking around and I'm swaying. And so she was like, oh, how about you try this ball? So I get this. Oh, actually, this was before I went to sleep. She put me on like the weighted ball, and I personally did not like that. I did not like the weighted ball. Um, and so I was like moving around on it, and it just wasn't comfortable to me. Like at all. And I was like, I don't really like this. Because you have that, like, you have on, like, undergarments or whatever. And so I'm, like, rolling around on the ball and moving from side to side. And like I said, it was just uncomfortable. So walking is the best thing for me to do. Walking, and then I would, like, do, like, the lunges or whatever. But to me, walking was absolutely enough. Like, that gravity was definitely starting to do its job. So I'm walking around. I'm feeling contractions. I'm like, and I'm just breathing through it. Both the nurse and my husband are helping me by whenever I would have a contraction. So every time I would have a contraction, I would speak it. And they would laugh at me because you can clearly see the screens that show that I'm having a contraction, right? But I will always say that I was having a contraction. I would say contraction, and then I would just like really just breathe. What you don't want to do is fight against it, so I would just like breathe through it. But also when it started to get like real bad, the nurse and my husband would, whenever I would have a contraction, would pick up my stomach to help like relieve some of the pain, like going down to my pelvis or whatever. And so that really helped a lot. Okay, so going through that whole process, it came a point where I was like, okay, this shit hurts so bad. Like, I just need to sit down. Like, I needed to lay down, because I felt it would be most comfortable for me. That worked with my other two. Like, once I got to a point where it was like, And so when I laid down, she checked my cervix and I was still 6 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, damn, like, I don't know, this kind of hurting kind of bad. I feel like I should be like, moving on up into, how much I'm dilated. But for whatever reason, I was still 6 centimeters. So I laid down, I'm breathing through it. I really don't even know what time it is at this point. But the contractions are getting stronger. At this point, I cannot even get up to go and pee. Like, she tried to like put a bedpan underneath, but it was so uncomfortable. I was like, ma'am, absolutely not. And so then she was like, well, let's just put underwear and a pad on. So that's what I did, or like a diaper basically. So that's what I did, just in case I had to use the bathroom, right? Which I actually don't even feel like I ended up peeing anymore. It just felt like I had to. And at the same time, my stomach was still hurting, by the way. So anyways, the contractions are getting worse and worse. And every so often she's checking my cervix, because I'm like, the contractions are getting closer together and they're really, really, really strong. And I'm like, are you sure I'm just like 6 centimeters dilated? And so there came a point where the last time she checked it again, it was still 6 centimeters. Y'all, I was like, okay, this feels like 8 centimeters. I come to a point where about 8 centimeters where I'm like, okay, I can't. The end has got to be near, because I can't take this anymore, right? And I'm looking at her, and I know I look pitiful. I look so pitiful. And she was like, Robyn, tell me what you need. Oh no. So look, I was saying out loud, I was like, oh my God, baby girl, just get an epidural. I don't know why I do this every time. This shit hurts so bad. Contraction. And I would just, breathe through whatever. And she looked at me and she goes, Robyn, just tell me what you need. And Quincy starts to laugh, and he never wants to say anything because he doesn't want them to see him like as an overbearing husband. Like, you don't need that. But that's how we communicate. I already made up my mind that I don't want to do it. And so he just laughed, and I know what the laugh means. And he know what it means when I say that, because I told him I wasn't going to say, I just need the epidural, because I always end up saying it. And so he just busts out laughing, and I'm laughing or whatever. And yeah, and so still going through it, and I kid you not, it just hit a point where I was not getting any relief. Like, with contractions, you have a break. So you have a contraction, and then it's a break in between. That's how they know how close or how far your baby is to coming out, right? So I hit a point like real quick where I wasn't having time to breathe. Like, I'm like, contraction, and I take a puff, and I'm like, oh my God, another contraction. I'm like, are you sure I'm just, whatever dilated? Baby, I didn't have time to ask her that last time. I started screaming out like, I got a shit. But I actually did have to poop. But at the same time, when that happens, that also means the baby is coming out. But I was in disbelief, because I'm like, she said the last time she checked, which maybe was 10 minutes or so ago, I'll give it 20. I was still 6 centimeters dilated. Now, in her defense, it was kind of hard for me to keep my legs open when she was trying to check my cervix, but goddamn, I sure felt her up in my thing, where I feel like you should have got an accurate count. So I really think she did. It's just that my labors do tend to go fast, and I think that it just kind of took off. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to shit. Like, oh, I really think I have to shit. So I know the difference between now giving birth and having a boo-boo. And I actually did poop. And my husband told me later on, was like, no, you definitely poop. I looked at her and was like, she pooped. And she came around and he said she scooped it up and she put it in the trash, took her gloves off, changed her gloves. Because at this point, like, it's definitely happening. Y'all, when I tell y'all that one contraction, I started screaming. I was like, and then I was like, is she coming out of my ass? Because it was bearing down so much where I felt like it was my butt, you know. But when your vagina is stretching, it's all of that area is affected, basically. That's what I'm saying. I was like, is she coming out of my ass? Oh, you know, screaming. And she was like, dang, like, let me check her one more time. And when she went down, the head was there. She was like, oh, so she goes to her walkie-talkie and she's like, we're ready for you, doctor, you know, in room whatever. I think it was like room 10. Room 10, we're ready for you. Baby, her little pages, they wasn't responding quick enough. I started screaming out, help, help, help me, help. Like, y'all need to get y'all asses in here right now so I can deliver this baby, because this baby is coming out. Like, I need y'all in here so that I can push. So they come running in. It's like, so with my nurse, a doctor and 2 other nurses came in, and then Quincy. So it's 5 people. And I'm like, I cannot control my movements, y'all. Like, my legs are going everywhere. Like, I'm pushing up on the bed because I'm trying not to push yet. I'm waiting for the doctor to come in. But at the same time, the baby gets to this point where it's like, I'm coming out and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it, okay? And so that's where I was. And I'm just like, goodness, baby. Quincy. You know, I'm looking at him and he like, baby, just breathe. And he got this smirk on his face. And it don't even make me mad. Like, this is the 3rd time. It's funny. It's funny. So yeah, so they come in and they, you know, put the little things up so I can lift my legs. But it hurts so bad at the same time. I'm wanting to close my legs. I don't know why. But one of the nurses was a black lady. She had these long blonde box braids. But it was so cute. She was like, look at me, Robyn. Look. I need you to keep your legs open. Her head is right there. You have to keep your legs open. And I'm just looking at her like, girl, goddamn, this shit hurts so bad. And so the male doctor came in and he was like, when he came in, he opened up and was like, yeah, so Robyn, the next contraction, I need you to push, okay? Okay? And he's waiting for me to respond to him, right? But I started pushing because I had a contraction. Like, I'm telling you, like, I would breathe and another contraction would come. And so I started, like, making a face or bearing down because now I know how to push. It's like you almost have to push like you trying to take a poop, right? And so he looks up at the screen, like, is she having a contraction? and the screen said yes. And I was just... you know, pushing. And so I pushed for the longest I could. And they was like, keep going. I hear Quincy go, her head right there. Keep going, baby. Keep going. And I'm just pushing like, this baby has got to go. Like, this shit hurt so bad. And I probably pushed for a good 30 seconds that first time. And then the lady with the box braids, I can't remember her name. She was like, she said, Robyn, you push one more time, her head is going to be out, okay? And so the next contraction, they was like, push. I pushed. I mean, I put my all into that, okay? Like, I put everything that I had into pushing that baby out. What it felt like was my ass, okay? So I'm pushing. And she was like, I know, the ring of fire. It hurts so bad. Just keep pushing. She almost there, like, I'm telling you. And then Quincy just had his hand on my arm, holding my hand and one hand on my head. And he was like, baby, she is right there. And I'm looking at him and just all of their confirmations, everybody at the same time was talking to, like, push, like, you got it. And I'm just like pushing. I would not stop. And then you don't breathe when you're pushing. So I'm just pushing. Boop! Her head come out. I'm like, oh my God. And they like, push one more time. She gonna be here, baby. The middle of them saying that, she was coming out because I had already started pushing again. And then boom, her body just came on out. And there she was, born at 2:54 a.m. on March 17th. I have a St. Patty's Day baby. At first I was like, dang, I don't want no baby on no holiday. And Quincy was like, if any holiday it's best at St. Patrick's because don't nobody really care about St. Patrick's Day. So, baby girl gonna always be celebrating and ain't gonna be like, around the other side of it, I ain't got no money. I was gonna get a son. I ain't got it because you do. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, not that that's what matters, but still, I didn't want that. So, yeah, I had me a St. Patrick's Day baby. So the contractions where I was like, nah, this labor is real as hell right now, started at about 12:30. I had her at 2:54 a.m. So it went from 6 centimeters dilated to pushing rather fast, which I'm never mad about. I'm absolutely never mad about. So yeah, she came out, and even with her being 4 weeks, almost 4 weeks early, I say 3.5, she was still 6 pounds 2 ounces, which is actually more than my second son was, right? He was like 5 pounds and something, and he went 38 weeks, so yeah, like she came out healthy. I only had to stay in the hospital with premature babies because technically she was premature. They want you to stay 48 hours, but she had passed all of her tests. I was doing well. I had, did my pee and my poop, and I was breastfeeding good enough, for her or for them to say, okay, the doctor came in, did everything they needed to do, and we were out of there the next day. So we didn't stay the 48 hours. We only did 24. Yeah, and it was really nice. It was really nice. And it's so crazy how like quick you forget like how painful that shit just was when your baby make it. So we had us our third child, which was a girl, and we are done. I ain't gonna lie, this time I was like, yeah, I am not putting myself through this pain again. Because if I always could have a natural birth, I would absolutely have a natural birth, like if it's my choice. So, but it was a good experience, even though she came early, everything was fine. There was nothing I could do about her coming early, and I just trusted God, and I trusted my body to do what it's gonna do. I trusted her to be okay. Once my contractions started happening, like her heart rate never dropped. Like once I actually went into labor, I said they broke my water. Damn, man, I forgot. But she had broke my water, like, yeah, I did, because I said that at 7:30. So, yeah, once she broke my water and stuff, like, her heart rate was never going down. I don't even know if it was going down, like, when I was having a contraction, because that's okay. If it was, then they never said anything because apparently, it wasn't a problem. But, yeah, so I had me another kid, and I honestly can't believe it. It's been a month now. I can't believe that I'm a mom of 3. I'm actually a mom of 3 children right now. Like, shit is wild. Shit is wild. But it's been good. She's growing very well. She's getting big. She eats all the time. She absolutely loves her mama. Like, it's not just the food. Like, she loves being with me and under me. She wants to be held by everybody. My mom and my dad came into town. My mom was here for about 3 weeks. My dad came for my mom was here for like 2 weeks. No, I think it was like 3. No, I don't know. In between 2 and 3 weeks. and then my dad came for about 5 days. And then my mother-in-law came for a week. So she's been showered with love. She's been here. Her brothers absolutely love her. My son said, can I hold it? I'm like, can I hold her? They're really like gentle with her and stuff, want to give her kisses and hugs and snuggles and all those good things. So my little family, or big family now, we're a family of 5, is complete, and I am extremely, extremely happy about it. So that is all. Thank you all for tuning in with me today. I hope that you enjoyed my story time of me giving birth to my baby girl. If you guys like this, and if I get like some good feedback or whatever from this, then I will talk to you about, I'll do another video of an install where I'm explaining how to get through labor naturally without epidurals, because I've done it 3 times and I've been really well at it, just saying, and 3 different experiences at that. So I think I have a pretty good idea of that. All right, see y'all next time. Peace and blessings.